Week 3 is in the books, so that means it's time to hit those Dynasty waiver wires to find players that could add value to the back end of your rosters. And first and foremost, I want to highlight a couple of players that are very highly rostered, but not exactly 100% that I think need to be. And that includes Emmanuel Wilson, running back for the Green Bay Packers, Trey Sermon, running back for the Indianapolis Colts, Jalen Naylor, wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, and Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, all these guys are rostered in over 90% of Dynasty leagues out there, but not exactly 100%. So double check your waiver wires and add these guys immediately if they are available. All right, to kick things off, we have life in Carolina. We should have never doubted Dave Canales' quarterback powers because it only works on veteran quarterbacks who have been on multiple teams and nearly left for dead by the NFL, which is exactly what Andy Dalton is. 319 yards, 3 touchdowns for a top 12 QB1 fantasy performance off the bench. Deontay Johnson has been revived. Adam Thielen was revived before getting hurt. Chuba Hubbard totaled almost 170 yards and a touchdown. Even Miles Sanders found the end zone. Have a day, Carolina. In all seriousness, if Dalton wasn't scooped up in your leagues last week after being announced as a starter, he must be added now. I wouldn't say that he should immediately get thrown into your starting lineups just yet, but if Andy Dalton remains a starter for the entirety of the season, he could be a very quality QB3 or even streamable QB2 like he was this weekend. And with more quarterback injuries popping up, bye week starting in a couple of weeks, you just can't ignore a player like Andy Dalton based on the performance that he had this past weekend. In more quarterback news this week, the injury of the week was to Justin Herbert. So in came Taylor Heinicke as the new backup for the LA Chargers. He only completed 2 passes on 2 drives and was actually sacked more than he threw, but Heinicke has been no stranger to fantasy productions in the past on multiple different teams. So if this ankle injury for Justin Herbert is anything serious to where he has to miss multiple games, Heinicke is not a bad pick up. His quarterbacks are beginning to drop like flies, and like I said, bye weeks will be starting in week 5. So if Taylor Heinicke's out there, he's more than worth an add this week if Justin Herbert is really that hurt. All right, now I feel obligated to talk about Kareem Hunt this week, even though I didn't really want to. He was picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs after Isaiah Pacheco went on IR, but only signed to the practice squad and wasn't even called up for the Sunday night game against the Falcons. But because of the name recognition of Kareem Hunt, I saw some wild fab spending on him in redraft leagues this past week, so if he's still available in Dynasty, then he should be added. The reason I didn't really want to talk about Hunt is because I don't think he's all that meaningful. In all honesty, I don't believe that any of the backup running backs for the Chiefs are really going to be all that great. The last that we saw of Kareem Hunt, he averaged 3 yards per carry in 2023, but scored a bunch of touchdowns in goal line situations, a role that we believe is already taken by Carson Steele. And the year prior in 2022, still averaged under 4 yards per carry and scored a lot less. So he just wasn't good in his final years in Cleveland, and now has been sitting at home all year unsigned, and now getting an opportunity to maybe make the active roster off the practice squad. I'm fine adding him again, but because of the name of Kareem Hunt, I would be doing so to then immediately flip for a 4th or 5th round rookie pick or whatever you can basically get for him. In all honesty, the name that I am more intrigued by for the Kansas City Chiefs is Keontae Ingram, who was also signed to the practice squad after the Pacheco news, but was actually called up for the game this weekend. Ingram was with the Chiefs all summer and was only cut in favor of Carson Steele and Samaje Perine, but Ingram is a lot younger, he's more explosive, and is at least being given an opportunity to play now over Kareem Hunt. So I would also be adding Ingram as a speculative add in Dynasty. Another speculative add at the running back position is Tyler Beatty, who I just found out was A, still in the league, and B, still with the Denver Broncos, I guess, and much to my dismay, the Javonte Williams resurgence has not come to fruition at all, and even Jaleel McLaughlin has been having a rough time producing anything in his limited playing time, so to try to spice things up, Beatty was thrown out there in the 4th quarter to run out the clock, and he actually produced fairly well, albeit still in garbage time, but 70 yards on 9 carries is actually more production than Javonte has had all year, and nearly more production than Javonte and McLaughlin combined this season. I really wouldn't be shocked if Sean Payton looks at that and sees it as a potential opportunity to give Beatty more touches down the road to try and invigorate this Broncos run game, so I think he's well worth the speculative add, especially in deep leagues. Now at the wide receiver position, a quick reiteration from past videos because Allen Lazard just continues to put up fantasy points as the wide receiver 2 for the Jets. I will admit he has been losing snaps and targets to Mike Williams as Williams has been getting more integrated and healthier from his ACL injury a year ago, but with defenses honing in on Garrett Wilson to the point that even Aaron Rodgers has talked about adjusting to that.
The entire focus of all 3 defenses we played have been taking Garrett away. It's been Mel Kiper's worst nightmare. Been a lot of cover two, you know. And when there's times we get one high, we've tried to go to them, but a lot of too high in all 3 games. You know, they're shading to them, even with stud corners. You know, you look at the Ward in week 1, and Snead, thank you, in week 2, and then Gonzalez in week 3 now. Not a lot of singles. So that's a tribute to Garrett and his talent.
Allen Lazard could offer spike weeks like he has in basically 2 out of 3 games so far. He's not an every week starter, but is most certainly worth a roster spot in Dynasty if he happens to still be available. And finally, I saved the best for last. 1, because he really was the best part of this weekend's games, but also 2, he's not super widely available because he was probably picked up last week, so this may not be applicable to a lot of you out there, but Juwan Jennings, man, have yourself a day. 11 receptions, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, 46.5 PPR fantasy points. He almost single-handedly beat the Rams, and had almost anybody else showed up to play for the Niners, they probably would have, but Jennings was by far the star of this weekend. Now, as I mentioned, he is already highly rostered on MFL leagues at 91%, so it's unlikely that he's still on your waivers, but if he is a must-add this weekend and a possible flex option in your starting lineups as long as Deebo Samuel and or George Kittle are out.